Hi guys, welcome back. We're starting the second part of our day here at Adobe Symposium, and this is the live event. So in the second part, we're going to be chatting to two creatives at the same time around the theme of collaboration. So we are super lucky. We've got Demas Rusli.
Hello.
And Sha'an, otherwise known as Very Little Peach.
Yep.
So you guys are doing a collab, so we're going to get stuck into that, asking you guys some questions about all of this kind of stuff. So firstly, let's get into who you guys are, what you guys do. So Sha'an, we'll start with you.
Yep. My name is Sha'an. I am an illustrator from Sydney, and I predominantly work in watercolor, but digital is a big part of my practice too. I don't really collaborate much, actually. So this is like one of the first few times.
Lucky
Very
man.
excited. But yeah.
And Demas?
Hi, my name's Demas, and I'm an architect/photographer based in Sydney, Australia. Been doing photography for about 7 years, and I guess through my background in architecture and learning how to use Photoshop in uni, like I've kind of tried to mesh the two together. And yeah, I predominantly use Lightroom and Photoshop.
Right. Okay, cool. So you're both kind of collaborating with Adobe in the sense that you're both influencers. You guys have a huge following on Instagram. I'm part of that following. Just
Thank
little
you.
fan,
Thank
little
you.
fan
Thank
moment.
you.
So how does this all work then? You guys are doing a collaboration. You've requested to collaborate together?
Yeah, so I guess Adobe was the catalyst for the campaign where everyone's collaborating, but we requested to collaborate together.
Yeah.
I mean, we were talking about it before this anyway, so this is a great way to do it so that a brand can be involved as well, I guess.
Yeah, I met Sha'an 2 years ago.
Yeah, at
Make
this
It.
event. Yeah, like the
previous
version
event.
of this, yeah.
Right.
And we've been friends since the last 2 years, and we've been talking about collaborating because, I mean, our styles are so completely different.
Yeah.
So it's super interesting.
And mediums as well.
Yeah,
doesn't it?
exactly.
Yeah.
Different
Yeah.
mediums, different styles.
Maybe we
So-
were procrastinating on it because we did talk about it IRL, like separate to this.
Yeah.
But I think because there was a brief in our hands, it was kind of like, okay, we got to do it now.
yeah.
It's exciting.
Okay, so get like the Adobe kind of umbrella with this gave you guys a little bit of a focus
A
to
kick
do
in the
things?
pants.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
cool.
exactly.
So how do you guys then approach this? There's a context around here with Made Here. You guys, obviously, you're based in Sydney.
Yeah.
You're based
Sydney.
in Sydney as well? Okay,
We're
cool.
both Sydney. Yep.
There goes that question.
We literally live 10 minutes apart.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right.
Meet
So,
5 minutes in the middle.
so what is Made Here then? How do you guys kind of use Made Here in that sense of collaboration?
Well, I don't know. Like, I guess made here for us, I guess seems like a making something just in our styles, but like nothing, like keeping it organic, keeping it like true to ourselves. I guess
Yeah.
that's the whole idea of what I got when I heard made here.
It's also
Yeah.
exciting because the way that I usually work is either with a client or for myself. So it's not really going back and forth between another creative and the project evolving in that way. It's
Yeah.
more like someone's giving me feedback and then I'll evolve the project and then feedback and then
Yeah,
project.
we'll just keep
Where
doing
this
that.
time it's kind of like tennis or
Yeah.
something and then we just see what it looks like afterwards.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, the idea that we came up with is that we're probably going to do sort of two pieces, one that works for Sha'an's feed and one that works for my feed. But at the same time, it should work for both feeds as well. And then we'll probably post it as a carousel, like on our feed, just to show that we've
Yeah.
done the two.
And the
sort of
reason,
works.
like, it's not like just like, oh, let's do double the work. It's more just because our work looks so different. So we don't want the collab, because often collaborations can be like an awful Frankenstein between two people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Feel a
want it
bit
to
forced.
be, I want
Yeah.
it to be something that, like, we'll both have something that fits really within the world so that our work lives within, because both of our work, like, a similarity that it does have is that it doesn't feel, it feels like otherworldly in a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's really interesting actually, because we had Dale Bagini on, who's another Sydney-based illustrator.
Yep.
And him and I are doing a little bit of a collaborative thing later on during the day in a breakout session. And we were like, his and myself were both illustrators, so that makes it a little bit easier in that sense. But we're also kind of like the process that we use is both digital, so our styles look quite similar. We were talking about this idea that does a collaboration suffer or benefit from having similar artists with similar styles and similar
Okay.
mediums?
Yep.
Or does it kind of mean like if you want to work with somebody who's in a completely different field and way of working, does that enhance the process?
I
Is
kind of
the-
prefer it.
Yeah, I think it's
Would,
like,
like, the
it's so much more
working different?
challenging.
Different mediums
Yeah.
or like different practices, because if you're doing the same thing, it can be very easy for like styles to clash. Just
Yeah.
because two people are illustrators doesn't mean it's going to go together well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
And
I think
also,
it's
like, I
easier.
mean, in terms of social stuff as well, like, you're probably gonna start getting like a few photography fans that
Oh no,
might follow
you're gonna
you,
judge me.
and then like I'll get maybe Illustrator fans that might start following me. So it's
I
like
didn't
that
think
cross
about that.
collaboration
We have
is
very different audiences.
yeah, exactly. I
Interesting.
think it's gonna be quite interesting.
So it's actually super interesting because like you guys are, if let's imagine for a second that we live in a world where Instagram doesn't exist. Would you have thought of doing two separate pieces, one for your feed and one for your feed?
Probably not because. Oh, you would? Okay, you
think I
go
would.
first. You go first.
No, I mean, I looked at it as like I'm drawn towards your like colors and your astro more like blue and purple sort of
Yeah,
colors.
and it's not something I use a lot.
Yeah, and so when I look at your work, I'm like your book Zoom was like quite cool to see all the
Demas.
astronomy and all the planets and stuff.
Sweetheart.
So yeah, I was like always like I was inspired by that, and like I guess when I thought of collaborating with Sha'an, like that's sort of the first thing that popped to my head, and like it would have been a different thing for you, right?
Yeah,
That
for
popped
sure.
into your head.
I was worried because I don't use a lot of blues. Like I try and use more warm colors. Of course, I fall into the blue. Like I feel like I'm very naturally drawn to blue when I'm actually painting.
Yeah.
But I try to move my work to be warmer colors because I like to look at that.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh my god, how are we gonna do this? Because I use a lot of oranges
Yeah.
and yellows, and
Yeah.
it's not something that
Yeah,
appears in your
not
work very
much,
much.
yeah.
I guess the reason I was going more for it, would we have done two works if we didn't have Instagram feeds? I think that like because it exists in a gallery and the gallery needs to be consistent, that's why I feel like that's why we're doing two pieces.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying as well.
Yeah.
I guess you have to find a way to meet in the middle, especially when our work is so different. And I think it makes it more fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So then, in that respect, then would you be, if at all, would you be changing your workflow and maybe some of the color choices that you make, or how you kind of take the photo and what you do to it, based on the fact that you're now working with Sha'an and you're working with Demas?
Workflow for sure.
Yeah, it'll be slightly different. I mean, should we just maybe talk about the idea that
Yeah,
we
for
have?
sure. For sure. Do you want to connect either? Is this connected?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, let's
So we
do
can
it.
pull up some of the. Have you guys got some of the work that
We've
you've
got
worked on to
like
show us?
Yeah.
examples of what we could do similarly to our past work.
So I
Right.
guess I don't know if is it showing on the screen. I don't know what's happening.
Yeah, it's up. We will be up in a sec. So these are kind of inspiration things of like this is what it could be.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
so I do these sorts of edits where it's sort of like a fade between like sunset to night, and it's
Yeah.
kind of like a bit surreal. It's like So I was thinking of doing something like this, but for Sydney, because we
Yep.
both live in Sydney.
Yep.
Like something like this image, for example, where like it's a fade of like the opera house,
Mm-hmm.
and then trying to use some Sha'an's sort of watercolor and
Like
the
bleeding
textures.
to like a night color
yeah,
and a day
and
color.
a warm color, yeah. So
Yeah.
like
Right.
stuff like this with the textures and like the colors, the blues and the planets.
Yeah.
That sort of stuff I was trying to probably put in the background and then like also flip it in the water as well. So it's sort of like
oh wow, I didn't even think of that.
integrated all
Yeah.
into one.
Right.
Yeah, so that's sort of the idea that I was thinking of.
Yeah,
And then,
I've also got some examples of like the past work where I draw it over photos. So that's where I'm coming from when I'm thinking of this
which
just-
is this.
yeah, this kind of
Yeah,
stuff.
right.
So this is what I've done in the past, but it obviously is going to look a lot cooler over Demas's photos rather than just my photos, I think.
Oh, thank you,
I
Sha'an.
don't know. That
Okay.
looks pretty cool to
Oh,
me.
thanks. Guys, please.
So then, all right. So cool. With all that, then you guys are kind of exchanging ideas. Like, could
Yeah.
be this, could be that. Is there a point where it's almost kind of like doing group work in school where it's
No,
like
'cause
that's a
we've
good
opted
idea,
in.
but this is also a good idea? Is there
No.
somebody who's like,
Oh, Demas is more organized than me, for
Okay.
sure.
right?
Like, Demas is always straight on like, hey, did you see this email? Hey, this. I'm like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, you're definitely the so maybe I don't feel like it's group work because
I
I'm the
don't feel like-
disorganized one.
I don't feel like it's group work. I think
I
it's
don't
fun.
thi- I
Like, I
think-
really enjoy it.
Yeah, I think we both opted in. Like, when you get a brief, you don't have to say yes to it. If I didn't want to work with Demas, I wouldn't have said yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm always about like collaboration and like I don't know, trying to push like photography. I mean, you think of photography, there's like everyone is a photographer now these days, right? Like, as in everyone's got a camera in their hands, and like it's
But
about
I kind of feel like also everyone is not a photographer.
Yeah, that's the
It's like-
thing. It's like everyone thinks they're a photographer, but the photographer, like,
yeah. So I guess my
everyone can
point
be a
is
photographer,
Yeah,
but not
yeah.
everyone is a photographer.
Yeah.
yeah, and my
absolutely.
point is as me as a photographer, like my goal is always to try something different and like make something new and bring out something that not many people have seen before. And so I guess collaborating with Sha'an or collaborating with like other artists, and it's so different that like it's a cool opportunity for me to try something new. I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
And like for me, because I don't collaborate much, I think that I'm quite protective of I see my work as like living in a world of its own. So I'm quite protective of how it's used, I guess.
Yeah.
And so I'm glad that we got to work together because I'm like, yes, come on, Demass, let's do it. Come inside my world, let's do it.
So then for you again, in a sense, like if it was collaborating with someone else, you'd be wary of like, no, don't do that with my work. That's like, that doesn't fit with my kind of universe that I'm building in my work.
Exactly. And I was really weary because I was worried that I wouldn't be working with someone I knew. And I like Demass's work and I know him and we get along really well. So I know that it's going to be a positive experience.
Yeah. So how is it, because we were talking about this with Dale, because Dale and I are friends. It becomes this thing where, obviously we're exchanging a lot of emails, we're having a lot of conversations, we're working together on the same thing. So how important then is it just like, yes, we've got the creative side and it's kind of aligned or not aligned depending on what we're seeking in this particular collaboration, but then there's the personal aspect of like you are also dealing with a real life human being.
Yeah.
How important is it that those two people get along? I assume...
I think it's very important.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, we've been friends for the past 2 years. Like we hang out outside of, we have games night and stuff like that. And so yeah, we're kind of in the same group of friends. So it's quite easy to work with Sha'an,
and I think it's helpful because then you want to go out of your way to make the other person happy and make sure that you're not like doing it for yourself and only making sure, okay, I'm satisfied with this work. I want Demass to be happy.
Yeah, exactly. I feel the same way as well.
And have a piece at the end of it that you're happy to share with your audience.
Exactly. Put it on our websites, like that kind of stuff.
I love like promoting my friends on my social media accounts. Like I love seeing them grow in that first like 24 hours. So I'm really excited to be able to do that as well.
So all right. So one of the other things that we were kind of talking about, again, not to come back to like me and my thing.
Please tell us more.
Is like, do you ever get people hit you up on Instagram asking for a collaboration simply because you get the feeling that maybe they're just looking for a nudge in followers from you guys?
I do.
You do? Yeah, we were talking about this recently. You go ahead,
Demas. Yeah, and then I mean, for me, although I love to collaborate with people, at the moment I'm actually hosting a little plug here.
Okay, go ahead.
A free-for-all competition. I recently reached 200,000 followers, so very blessed about that. Very grateful. And to give back to my audience, I'm hosting a competition where they can download 30 of my raw images and they can edit it as much as they want. In a way, it's kind of like collaborating with me.
Lots of people, yeah.
Yeah, and so I get to see their edits on my photos and see their takes, and it's like super interesting to see what people come up with.
Yeah.
So I guess that's sort of my indirect way of collaborating with my followers, right? But in terms of like putting stuff on my feed and like a more personal collaboration, like I like to obviously pick and choose and see like how it would benefit both of us, not just that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
I think like if someone's looking to collaborate and if it's purely just to grow, like there's better ways to just grow. And you want to be able to do collaborations that you're actually interested in. Like don't approach someone and ask if you can collaborate if you're not actually interested in their work.
Yeah.
I just don't think it'll turn out very good.
Yeah, so
I agree.
There's quite a few criteria then to a good, successful collaboration.
Yeah,
but we don't even, like, it's not like we've been like, bit of this, bit of that. It's just like, we're friends, let's do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but then like you're friends for all the reasons and all the criteria that are required for a collaboration, so it just kind of happens naturally. Speaking of followers, so we got a few people obviously kind of tuning in. We've got Paula Diaz all the way from Costa Rica watching you guys. So, hi Paula,
hello.
Thanks for tuning in.
Hello.
And we have a question as well from Rachel that says, what new media have you guys been trying out? So we'll start with you, Sha'an, because I know that you have been sort of traditional media based for a long time, and then you've like recently, maybe in the last couple of years, you've done a kind of a switch to digital.
Yeah, so that was really hard for me actually because I couldn't find a way. Watercolor is so free flow and like organic looking. It's really hard to replicate in digital, and so I had to, instead of consolidating like a digital style and a traditional style, I kind of formed my digital work after a long creative block and then moved my traditional style towards the digital style. Like that's how I found a way to make them the same. So that was, it's new, but it's not newest. Have I been trying new things? I don't know. What have I been doing with my life? So digital is probably the newest thing that I'm doing, but I really, really love it now. Like once you get a hold of it, it's really fun.
Do you feel like maybe the traditional has dropped off because of the digital?
Maybe in terms of, because a lot of my commercial work is digital, especially with this, because we will be using watercolor texture, but a lot of the details will be digital. The ease of it is good, but it's quite dangerous because then you lose the ability to make those mistakes. You know, when you can just like tap out of like you can control Z, right?
Yeah.
And that, like, when you're doing it traditionally, you have to find ways to make that mistake look good. And so you lose that kind of creative thinking sometimes when you work digitally, that's why I would never stop drawing completely, but I have been doing less.
Yeah, right.
No.
So, because it's something that I've wanted to, like, I'm asking this scope for a lot of different illustrators.
Yeah.
I'm predominantly digital.
Yeah.
From a commercial standpoint as well, there's that pressure of like, well, you have to hand over an
Matching
alpha. Just don't post the
colours,
canvas
easier.
over to your client.
Yeah.
And making changes is obviously a lot more kind of easy to do. But I'm classically trained, so I have this thing where kind of like my sketchbook looks at me and is like, come on, bring it. But I want to work in a digital photo. And so it's only been recently that I've kind of settled into that.
Yeah.
But some of the challenges that I find with digital is because you've got Command Z, because you can change things at the drop of a hat, it means that you do.
Yeah.
And then like, when is a piece ever finished?
Yeah.
And is that something that you find kind of actually kind of in an ironic sense makes your workflow a little bit less proficient? Because
yes, exactly. You're like, I find that like I overwork digital work because you can perfect it and you can spend forever on it and you can control Z and you can zoom in and do the small details. And when you zoom out, you're like, why did I do that? Like it's so much smaller than everything else.
Yeah.
I think there's just something nice about traditional where it's like the easiest way to make a mark is with pencil and paper. Is it the best way? No. Depends on the person, but it's definitely always the quickest and easiest way for me.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's
And I
the
think
same
from
for you.
like a decision-making point of view as well on what you're putting in your artwork is like what you put down with ink or watercolor is like, well, that's it now. I need to make it work. Whereas, you know, Photoshop and other programs, it's like, well, I can just hide that layer, start a new one, and it's like.
And there's also a charm to the mistakes as well that you may not see automatically. Like, there's a lot of illustrators that use looseness in their work, and I would like to get better at that. And it's really hard to do that in digital and get used to making loose work in digital because it's so not loose.
Yeah. So then, does that kind of reflect over for you as well? Like, have you always been digital photographer? Did you go sort of like contact sheets in a dark room?
I've never used film cameras before in the past, so I've always been digital. But I guess something new that I'm trying out or like want to get better at is probably video. And so like not only just like I've been making like cinemagraphs and animations and stuff, but not only just that, but more cinematic videos as well. Just like learning how to use like a gimbal or like new techniques to use my camera. Like I think that's the next step, I guess.
So adding kind of like a sense of time, so it's not just like a still locked in that one instant.
Yeah.
Do you reckon that's going to change? Like obviously it's going to change the output from a photograph to a movie, but is that going to change some of the subject or themes that you treat?
Yeah, for sure. Like now when I go out shooting and if I see a bit of movement, let's say water or something, I would like record it and then try to incorporate that into a photo. And like, I think it's much more engaging to put like videos up and like people look at scrolling, and then it's like, oh, this thing moves. Like it's like a much more engaging thing for
you know when there's like really subtle cinemagraphs where it's like you're watching it and you think it's a photo and then it starts moving, you're like, oh my god.
Yeah.
There should be horror cinemagraphs. Are there?
I don't know.
Let's say there are.
I think there must be.
Yeah.
That would be a bit freaky. Especially like the deep fake thing like kind of freaks me out.
Oh my god,
at
yeah.
the moment. Yeah. Okay, so with all that kind of idea, we were talking quickly about a creative block. It's something that I want to kind of ask you guys as well. You're working on something with Samsung around sort of this idea of a creative block that you went through in 2017?
2016, 2017.
Yeah. So how does that manifest? How do you get over it? Like so many questions around that kind of
let
stuff.
me share. I'm a good oversharer, so this is good. It came after my first book, like finishing the artwork for my first book, because it was the first time I was doing a book and it was like my life goal.
Was that Zoom?
Zoom, yeah. I felt a lot of pressure and so I was like redoing spreads over and over again. I wasn't used to the way that you work with publishers where you submit a third of the book at a time just so because they need to be able to see what's going on. I'm used to like finishing a project, making sure it's consistent and then submitting it. So like that was very stressful for me. I felt I had to like make every single spread perfect when I submitted it. And I think I just spiraled into like creative block very quickly because I had lost my confidence. When you're second guessing yourself constantly, you lose like your creative compass. So I didn't know what was good and what was bad. And so afterwards I just didn't feel like making work anymore. It was really scary because I was like, am I not cut out to be an illustrator? Am I just not strong enough to do it? Maybe I'm just not good at this. And so I was really, really scared. And so like about a few months in, I had coffee. This actually really helps as well. I had coffee with a friend because I knew that she changed her style very drastically, and she was talking about how she had creative block for 6 months. Like she didn't draw for 6 months.
Wow. Okay.
And so I was like, that was like a big weight off my shoulders, because I thought that not being able to draw for 3 months, I was like a failure.
Right.
But because that someone else had done it and shared that story, I was like, okay, I'm fine. It'll get better eventually. And I had coincided like the end of the doing my book with like a trip to London. And it's not like go to London, you'll relieve your creative block, but it really helped. Like it being in like a place where I couldn't work, so away from my studio, stepping away from the tools, not thinking about it, just being on holiday, and just slowly, casually getting back into making work. So I would like take photos and draw over them on my phone for Instagram stories and stuff like that. And that really casual approach, as opposed to be like, I'm starting to make work again, or I need to draw again. It was just like, oh, I'll just do this for fun. And that's helped me slowly get back into the flow and like ignite my love for drawing and for illustration again. Not that I didn't love it, but I just didn't feel like I could make it. I was just so demotivated. So yeah, I guess my advice would be step away. That was a very long-winded way of saying just stop working, go outside, experience other things, experience other people's work, and then step back into the studio when you're ready. Don't force yourself if you have the luxury of time, you know.
Yeah, but I think that's an interesting point, and we'll kind of go through the same thing with you, but there is this kind of pressure I feel for a lot of creatives is like, if I'm not producing stuff, who/what am I?
Yeah.
Like, am I a fraud? So you were even kind of to the point where you were like, should I not be an illustrator? And this is after how many years of being an illustrator?
Exactly. And like at that stage, I was more in the mindset of, oh, I've got to make work all the time. I've got to be sharing it all the time. And then after making my book, because I couldn't share what I was working on, so I hadn't posted for a long time. So I guess it was easier for me not to worry about that side of things. And now I'm not concerned about it. I'm more in the mindset of, if I have good work, I'll share it. I'm not going to make mediocre work just so that I'm like keeping up with the algorithm, because I think you just give people an opportunity to unfollow you if you're creating work that's subpar. Yeah. I would rather just create nice work, and if people like it, that's fine. But I'm happy with it, so that's fine.
Which is it'd be an easy trap to fall into, right? Like you're working. So we were talking about before. We're working for Instagram now. And it's like, what do people want me to make? I'll make that and serve them. It's like, should I just be doing what makes me happy? And if people like it, then great. And if they don't, then also great.
Yeah. I have a rule where I don't let like the formats that are popular on Instagram change the work I'm making, but I will allow it to influence like the way I showcase my work. Yeah. So for example, like when I first moved to Instagram, like flat lays were very big in like the lifestyle community and the fashion community, but they weren't really in illustration or art. But I saw that it was a way that people really like to consume work. So I wouldn't change the drawings themselves, but I would change the way I was like showing them. I like to do that. What do you have any ideas on how not to let the likes and the numbers affect the work you're making?
So I guess, I mean, when I was like maybe a year or two ago, I was like constantly pumping out like 7 photos a week, like 1 a day at least, right? Like it kind of takes a toll on you, and like it kind of affects the quality of your work as well. Like you're just like, oh, let's just post this tonight. Let's just post this tonight. Yeah. But I guess like recently, like the last year, I've been posting maybe 4 or 5, so I've kind of cut down almost half. And I guess it's helped, like having a break, like you said, like just having a 2-day break in the week just helps you refresh for the next week. Yeah. And it kind of gives you more time to think about different ideas and how to execute different things. I don't know, like for me, because it's, I guess I work as an architect, and so like creating stuff and making stuff is just for fun. Like it's not like it is a job now, but like on Instagram it's just like all fun for me. So I guess I don't really get that creative block because I'm just having fun, right? Yeah. No pressure for me to like, you know, to keep posting or like whatnot, but I actually really enjoy it. Yeah. So I mean, just have fun with it. I guess that's the key of it. Like don't stress yourself out. And now I've realized, like, you know, just post what you like and don't really
So then it's a pressure thing, right? Because you're doing it for fun. You're not necessarily trying to get to a certain goal of like, I need more photography work. And
exactly. So but I guess me posting 4 or 5 times a week shows like I'm very active, and then
oh my god, such a powerhouse. I like when I say I'm not posting, I'm saying like once every 2 weeks.
No, but like I guess turnaround times for illustration and turnaround times for photography is
But your stuff
different.
I feel like it's quite laborious. I think I'm just more lazy.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, Demas, let's be honest.
No, because like I mean, it takes me like sometimes I really like a photo and all I need to do is just a quick Lightroom color grade. It takes about 15-20 minutes, right? And other times it's more laborious, could take like 4 to 5 hours. But then like you kind of just time manage it so that you could constantly post 4 to 5 times a week. And you balance the more complicated stuff with the less complicated things. So you kind of like, you know. But I guess, yeah, like just posting what you like and being happy with it and don't really caring about the people that follow you because they like your stuff. So like, so like I think in a way kind of is a cycle. So like you create work that you like, your followers like it, but then like if you start creating work that's like, you know, too branded or whatnot, like then your followers will not like it, and then you just like it's like a cycle that like you should need to.
Would you say it's different for us than for people that are just starting out that don't have audiences though? Because we have the privilege of like having eyeballs already. Like, do you think that posting every day and making that a priority is something that emerging creatives should be doing?
I think posting your best work is probably the most important thing, and like pushing the boundaries of whatever field you're in is the most important thing. Like, you don't have to post every day. You don't have to post, like, if you're posting once a week, it's fine. Yeah. As long as it's like really good work and like eyes are getting to it. Like, you want to be able to have that impact to the point where like people are coming to your page. Yeah. For like you don't need to say anything. People are coming because your work is that good.
Yeah, and I guess like it's not just the final work that you can be posting. Like for illustration especially, the process is super important to share. Exactly. We have so much that we can share that other people find interesting, even if we think it's boring, like swatches, like watercolor tests or whatever. Like you don't need to be, you can be posting more often than just when you finish an artwork.
Yeah.
And I think in fact maybe you should.
Yeah, for sure.
Because in a lot of cases, the process is kind of the artwork, and the finished piece is like, okay, that's cool, but like, what's really interesting is like, how did you do that? How like, what filters and all that.
And there are
kind of
also
stuff.
like informal ways to share. Like, I mean, Instagram stories are more informal, so I could post like the layers of my Photoshop file, and like people can build it themselves and tap to edit. You know,
yeah,
like,
that's cool.
That's a good way to engage.
That's a really good storytelling device that you've been utilizing. I really like it.
So all right, so then. You were kind of talking about like, you know, newcomers that don't necessarily have so many eyeballs on them, and that maybe is a little bit harder. Maybe they shouldn't be posting every day because then it kind of builds pressure in terms of like not really building your work and actually trying to build towards that. But then on the flip side of things is because you guys do have such a big following and because you're known for quite a sort of a specific thing, what happens when like Demas Rusli wants to do like wildlife photography or Sha'an wants to paint like skulls, bloods and gore? Like, you know what I mean? Like,
I would just do it. Like,
yeah, I feel like that.
Is that a bridge too far for your following to gap though?
I don't think so. Like, I've posted like I mean, I go traveling and I go to like Yosemite and like landscape, like anything I like, anything I want to post, I'm just going to share it. Like, there's no pressure for me to just do all cities or architecture all the time. Like, if my followers don't like it, then I guess I don't really mind. Like, as in, the people that like my work should like my work for what it is.
I think also they're attached to you, so it's not just buildings that they like the way that you see the world as well.
How editor was something.
So that's a little bit different. Also, for me, like I've had experiences with when I started using digital, like I worked with like Wacom, and so it was the first time I was using digital. Someone's like, I don't like digital art, and I was like, oh my god, like it was the first thing I ever did. So I think you also need to ease them into it maybe by sharing the process. That's a good way to ease people into it, or let them know what you're thinking. Because I think people, when they really like your work, they can be scared with change.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. I feel like it doesn't matter what you're making. If people are attached to you as a creator, they can make their mind up for sure. They don't have to like everything that you do, but I don't think there's going to be a super adverse reaction to you experimenting and trying things out.
Yeah. I think at the beginning as well, when I Photoshop things, I always try to make it as real as possible so people don't know. And like...
That's something you do well. I see like a lot of photographers that are Photoshopping, but they're not taking into consideration scale. I'm like, why are those birds so giant?
Yeah, scale and like shadows and light and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, you do that really well.
I mean, that all kind of came from, you know, learning architecture and rendering buildings and that kind of stuff.
And learning like the basics perspective.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But then like... I used to get more like haters saying, you know, this is Photoshop, like this is not photography. So like, but I guess like through time and me keep like constantly posting that kind of stuff and sharing the process, like not lying, don't lie.
No.
But I like to like be a little bit cheeky and be like, guess or something, like to get people to question the image.
Yeah, but you also, oh sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying like, don't lie about it, but you can be a bit cheeky and like do like white lies, like, you know, like, where is this, or like that kind of stuff.
Not the whole truth.
Yeah, and I also feel like it's a little bit different. Like when I see very photoshopped images that are pretending they're real and it's very different to me because you're sharing the way you build the images.
Yeah.
So it's completely honest. I think that's an important thing to do as well.
There are a few times like there's plain edits that I do.
Yeah.
I just kind of leave it to the audience
Oh,
to
I think
guess.
that's fine too. But like,
Yeah,
if there's
yeah.
a premise where it's known that you're like building your images in
Yes,
a certain
yes.
way, like I think that's the honesty
Yeah.
that people need.
Because
I
some
don't think
people
you don't need to be like PS, like ruin the magic every time.
Yeah. Because some people are like, where is this? Where is this in Dubai? Where is this in Bali? And I'm like
I made it up.
I just do like winky faces to just like
Yeah.
give them a bit of
I totally know what
intrigue
you
and
mean.
like I don't want them to like, oh, it's Photoshop and then just brush it off.
No, of
Yeah.
course.
Yeah, I just want them to realize that, I mean, a lot of work came into this. And like,
Yes.
imagine if it was like, use your
Yeah.
imagination, use your creativity, and like, maybe it'll be there one day. Like, I don't know. Like,
I think that also gives an insight of like these are real places. There's like car ads, all that kind of stuff. There is so much 3D involved.
Yeah.
There's like you have gone to a place and taken a photo with
Yeah.
something in mind. It's like you can see kind of the finished piece in your brain before you see it.
Yeah.
I think that's that again is that showing that process of like this is how I make my stuff. It's not just this arcane magic things
Yeah,
like
yeah,
ta-da, here's the image.
Yeah, and it's
Yeah.
like both photos I took myself. So like I guess that's sort of my take
Yeah.
on photography. Like if I've taken these photos myself, I can kind of blend them whatever I want to do with them, right? Like it's a form of art, I guess.
Also, there's a distinction between like photoshopping an image because you can't be bothered to make it, and photoshopping it to make it more surreal, which is what I think you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, okay, that leads me to kind of this idea of style, which is like we've got like 5 hours. Let's kind of talk about style. We've got a few questions coming in.
Yes.
We got one from Anthony Wynn saying, "How long did it take you to be comfortable with your art style?"
I've been taking photos for 7 years now, since like 2012, and I guess my photography journey started with Instagram, and like I just started posting all the photos I liked onto Instagram, and luckily managed to grow that page. And I guess your style kind of just develops along the way. Like I don't think I have a style. Like as in people think I have a style, but I personally think I'm just editing stuff the way I like it.
Yes.
And then it just happened to look a certain way.
Yeah.
Because if I edit it a different way, like, because I have more cooler tones, right? If I start editing warmer, like, personally, I'm like, I don't like that look.
Demas, please, I'm right here.
No, I'm just saying photography.
No, I know.
I love your yellows and your oranges.
Thanks,
but I'm
Debbie.
saying, like, if I start posting my night photos to be more warm, I
Yeah.
personally wouldn't like it in
Yeah.
my
Right.
head. But if you like it, then go for it, right? As in,
Yeah.
like, always just post stuff that you like and be true to you. Like, if you want to copy someone else, like, go for it, but do it because you really like it, and then push it to the next level. Like, copy them and then take it one step further
Or like
and see what you can do.
take all the things you like and make it one thing.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
feel like I get a lot of questions about style as well, and how to find it, but I don't think it's something you find because like your style will be evolving
Yeah,
in your whole
constantly
career.
changing, yeah.
And it should just be like when you make the stuff you like and you show people your taste through your work, that's your style, not emulating everyone else. Like the style comes after you've emulated and tested things out
Yeah.
and found a way to say it in your voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So worrying about finding your style is, in my opinion, a waste of time. Just make the stuff you like, and people will see your style eventually.
Even if it's random, that's your style then, your random
Exactly.
style. Like,
Yeah.
that's fine.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think that like what you're saying is kind of encapsulated in this thing of like if you look for a style, you just find an already existing one. Right?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
don't go looking
That's a
for it.
perfect
Like
way to
let it
describe
find
it.
you.
Yeah.
But I think I've struggled with that idea as well of like who am I? What am I doing? Like who
Help.
is? Because you know you have to write like a bio piece or whatever, which is the worst thing that I
Yeah.
could ever
Yeah.
have to do. It's like how do I describe my work to a client who's trying to decide whether or not I'm right for this project and so on. So like I feel like there are words that I can kind of say
Yeah.
that make my style, but it's a little bit like they don't make a coherent dish.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
the challenge for me then is to kind of like take all of those things, put them in a blender, and like I hope this comes out right.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah.
But I definitely think like let it find you, and then like after like 3 years of taking non-warm kind of color photos, is like I guess this is my thing. I don't necessarily need to feel like I put a label on it, but this is how my work has grown kind
Yeah.
of organically. Has that ever kind of changed for you guys? Like you kind of addressed that and like this is what I've always been doing, but was there ever a time where you were using kind of cold colors or not necessarily doing
I was
that sort
using
of
more purples and
children's?
blues. I mean, I've always liked like very childish work. It's just
Yeah.
playful and fun and nostalgic, which is what I try and achieve with my work. And I want people to feel that when they see my work. But the biggest changes that I've made have been moving medium, so traditional to digital, and most recently like working on my character style. So you can like, when I say don't chase a style, it doesn't mean you can't purposely purposefully grow. It just means like don't stress to the point where you're like copying people over the top, and don't stress to the point where you're like freaking yourself out.
Yeah, like I need to be doing more of this.
Yeah,
like that. Yeah,
just have fun. And like, so the reason I wanted to change my character style is because my next book is going to be very character driven more than Zoom, because Zoom was about the solar system. And so I was like, I need to be able to make characters that are very expressive, because in the past I've just drawn characters like 2 dots, a nose, and a mouth, or 2 dots and a mouth, and it's
Yeah,
like,
but they're super cute.
I know, but I wanted them to be like angry or like, and with just 2 dots, it's really hard to portray that. So I was moving towards that, and it was really scary at the start, because it was the first time I was like, oh, now I have to be bad at something. Not that I'm like great at everything. I just mean like I have to purposely put myself in a situation where I'm uncomfortable with the work I'm making, and then find a way to make myself happy with it. That was hard, but
Yeah.
that's also a valuable.
So that's
skill.
kind of like stepping out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Like,
exactly.
is
You have
that,
to always do that.
is that
Yeah.
a good thing? Is it a bad thing?
That's a
Like
great
how
thing.
far out of your comfort zone
I mean, you
do
don't have to
step?
show people that stuff.
Yeah.
It was a secret for me for like 6 months. I was like doing it just in my sketchbook, like not showing anyone anything.
Would you show them eventually though? Like
Yeah, I
once
have.
once it works, it's like this is how bad it was to begin with.
Yeah, I like sharing the journey once, so you can be like, there's like a light at the end of the tunnel, not like, look how sad I am.
Yeah.
But I have like a secret sketchbook page on my website that's for like people that subscribe to my newsletter, so they see that stuff.
Right.
I mean, I haven't updated for a long time. Should probably do that later.
Bad, Sha'an, bad.
Help.
Yeah. Okay. So then, same thing with you. Then it's just like this idea of like, is it learning within photography? Like, where does your comfort zone lie? Is it trying out a new kind of lens or a new camera, or adding animation or like motion
exactly.
to what you're doing?
I mean, for me, because I work full time, so the only times I get to go out and shoot is either at night or on the weekend. So like learning how to use my camera at night is very like was a big step for me, because like learning how to use your settings for long exposure, and like using tripods and like setting it up so it's like I'm not wasting my time as well, because like sometimes you go out there and you shoot and it's like, oh, it's not really good, you have to do it again. So I don't want to ever do that. That's why I kind of use Photoshop as well, because it's like if it doesn't work out here, I can use it for somewhere else, and like you kind of pick and choose. And I have like a library of images that like, oh, I've been here, so I can kind of just pick and choose and grab things. But yeah, like I don't know, like you just have to learn every single part of your craft, right? Like as in how to use a camera in different ways to get a unique shot, like that kind of stuff. It only comes through experience and like doing it, and seeing people inspire you as well too. Yeah, so you gotta.
Can I ask you as well? Like, so your work is obviously very quite literally storytelling.
Yeah.
Is there do you approach your photographs from a storytelling perspective?
I think a little bit. Like I like to sometimes say how I got the shot. Like there was a shot that kind of went a little bit where like I did a panning photo.
Yeah.
And it took me like 40 minutes to get one good pan. Like, cause it's like you have to follow a car, right? And I did it like 150 times, like to get it right.
Is
like
this the one with the blurry? It's like blurry background, the car's sharp. Okay.
So then I accentuated that blur even more using Photoshop, and I made it like even like look like
the one that you did for one of the live streams?
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
But then like that was like one of the first times I ever did panning photography. So it's like it's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
But then sharing that experience and like people really related to it, and then people got out there and tried it themselves. Like, oh, if Demas is taking 40 minutes and I'm only taking 20 minutes, I must, it helps them to realize that it's.
Right.
And I think, sorry.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Like.
Yeah, I think like with social media as well, we're surrounded by everyone's finished products. We don't see like the hard work behind it, so it's easy to be like, wow, these people are so good, but they haven't seen like 10 years of drawing, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they haven't seen like the work that goes into the final piece. They're just like completely blown away that this person has created this thing, and I'm like that too. But it's just like good to remember that not everyone is like a prodigy. You know
and you're not gonna. I mean, it's not gonna be one day where you suddenly become. It's gonna take lots of time and practice, and like we all started somewhere.
Yeah.
And like it's always about that journey of how you get better and how you improve yourself.
I get that from a lot of students. Is kind of that I teach illustration as well, and they're like, they'll see me kind of doing it, and then like after 3 months, because the course is 3 months, they're like, why can't I do what you do? It's like, because like I would hope, otherwise I could just quit my job. If you can do what I've been doing after 15 years of me doing it, you can do it in 3 months, then go for it. But I think isn't that Picasso quote is like that, do a little like 10-second sketch, like actually no, that took me like 40 years or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay, so we've got a few more questions kind of rolled in. Sorry, my computer has just gone to sleep. Obnoxious computer. So this is a kind of a big one as well. So we got Shelby O'Hara asking, how long did it take to make your art kind of your full-time job and be able to quit your day job? Any tips on how to get started with becoming basically a full-time freelancer?
I'm still not a full-time freelancer.
Yeah.
I find it so amazing though, Demas. You have like the same, like your work, you still have your own practice, and then you have like a full-time job. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So, like,
There's,
the last-
respect, because that's
respect.
like-
The last 6 months I've scaled back, and now I'm part-time at my architecture firm because it's sort of gotten like quite busy. I guess, I mean, like not only do I did 5 years of uni for architecture and I actually really enjoy it, but it's also like what we're talking to Sha'an about, like the people in the office as well.
Yeah.
Like you're constantly talking to others and you're having lunch with your friends and like
And I'm
that
not.
sort of.
I'm by myself in my studio, all alone.
Yeah, you're in your little world, creating stuff.
But I guess that social aspect for me I really enjoy. So like that's kind of why maybe I've held on for so long and not gone full time yet. But I'm definitely like really considering it and thinking about.
Is this your resignation letter?
No, can't do that live.
Yeah.
No.
For me, it was
You heard
like
it here first.
it was a natural progression. So I wasn't like, I'm going full time. I was working as a designer at an agency, and I was just like, I had resigned, and I was like, well, I'm getting a lot of illustration work. Let's see if we can do this. Like I was happy to stay in the design industry. I love the design industry.
So you didn't set out to be an illustrator?
Oh, I've always loved illustration, and I had been freelancing since high school, so it's something that I love to do. But I didn't have a problem with being a designer either. A lot of creatives think that design is like the fallback, when I actually love the design industry a lot. Like I think it's really important, obviously. Like designers are selfless. Illustrators are selfish a little bit. Because when we make work for ourselves and stuff that we like, but designers make work that makes other people's lives better. We suck.
I would agree with that.
We suck.
Yeah. But we have fun sucking.
Yes.
Yeah. That came out wrong.
Join us.
That came out wrong. So yeah, okay. So then, any tips on how to get there, or is it just kind of like relax, let it happen?
I don't think force it. Like a lot of students that I meet and speak to, they want to go straight into freelance, and I don't know if that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Because like the experience that I had working at an agency, especially a small company, I got so much business knowledge from that. Like you can't just be, as an illustrator, you're not just drawing. You're like,
There's a lot
you need to
more.
run your business. You need to do invoices. You need to be your accountant. You need to do your taxes.
Yeah,
like
you're doing the GM,
You
DMD,
gotta know your
like
rates.
all
You
the
gotta know what to
things.
charge. You
Yeah.
gotta do all
Got to
that
be your
kind
own
of stuff.
lawyer.
Exactly. So
Read all
like
the contracts.
it's good to maybe for the first little while put yourself out of exactly what you want to do in the way that you're around other people that are going to be doing the jobs that you need to learn how to do as a freelancer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's also like that time is also then there to help your style kind of mature and like find out where your basis for kind of creating images comes from.
Yeah, I attribute a lot of my success to having like the creative director that I did have when I was at like when I was a designer. I feel like he encouraged me to play. He definitely put a lot of pressure on me, like everything has to be pixel perfect. Like, is that a blurry line? Because you know when you transform a shape in Photoshop and you don't like, I did that. And he was like, do it again. So I had like standards for myself. Like it pushed me to do things that I wouldn't be doing for myself. I may have taken the easy way out or not understood that this is why designers do things or this is why this looks this way. I think when you're just drawing, it can be easy to not understand why people aren't wanting to work with you when you don't understand how the industry works. Like I know how to pitch to clients now. I know what agencies expect from me because I was a part of an agency. Like it's really important knowledge that you're missing out on if you're not working with other people.
Yeah, and I think also like life experiences play a massive role in the stuff you create as well. So like, you know, going through uni, doing 5 years of architecture school, like not sleeping much during uni and like then going straight to work and like at the same time pushing that photography side kind of motivated me to push it even more because it's like, you know, at work it's different to uni. It's different, like it's not as creative as you think it is. It's not as, you know, like you're not as having as much fun as uni because at uni you're like
Playing
you're playing, right? And so I just found my outlet to be photography and I kind of use that as motivation to like push my photography further because I don't know. I just wanted to have fun after a hard day of work, you know. Like
it's good to start it off like that. It's good for it to not be your full-time job because then you're like working to the client's needs and not exploring work that you actually like yourself.
Exactly, and then you can start to pick and choose clients as well because like your time is much more like precious.
Yeah.
Because like I don't have this much time, so
and you're not relying on the paycheck from one client. You're like,
So you don't have
I
to
don't
say
need
yes
to do that.
to everything.
Yeah, exactly. Saying no is good skill to have and like a privilege to have, for sure.
Yeah, and I think that also comes from this idea of like being relatively confident about who you are and what's the kind of work that you're doing. Like, sorry, no, this is not the right brief for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm not going to enjoy doing it, and
Yeah.
you're not going to be super happy with the work
Exactly.
that I'm
I
going
say
to
that
give you.
quite a bit to some people, like
Yeah.
depending on the brief I get, and like sometimes it doesn't really work at all. But
Yeah. Somebody asked a very technical question. Do we need to have a good camera to take photos? Can
Not
you
at
do
all.
Can you do what you do on an iPhone?
Yes, on a Samsung. We're both
We're
Samsung
about-
ambassadors.
Right.
yeah.
But
Fair enough.
nah, mobile photography is huge, and like I could shoot what I do, like as in there's some limitations. What like my phone can do long exposures up to 10 seconds, whereas a camera can do long exposures 30 seconds. But like it doesn't really.
No.
Yeah, like
I
you can
wouldn't.
definitely do stuff on a phone camera and
Yeah.
start from your phone and then
Yeah.
work your way up as you get
Because
better.
the gear
I like
doesn't
it.
make you a great photographer.
Not at all, not at all.
Composition, like your eye, your taste, that makes you a good photographer. And I feel like if you're spending your money on gear but not investing the time and the problem-solving skills that working on like a less professional device will give you.
I think it helps challenge your brain as well. Like,
Yeah.
how can I push my kind of, I don't know, cheaper camera or phone camera to the limit?
Yeah.
Like, how can I maximize this tool to,
Yeah.
to the maximum potential? Kind of
I
thing, yeah.
agree.
Yeah, I think that can even maybe become
Your
like
thing, yeah,
part
yeah.
of your thing. Is like I use this tool, therefore my work looks this way. Would you feel like that's the same kind of thing for you though? Like, is it better brushes and better papers and better inks and watercolors means
You've
better
done
work?
your
Like-
cheap watercolor
Yeah,
challenges and stuff.
I test cheap watercolors out and stuff like that a lot, and I feel like it's not the way work looks. You don't need expensive stuff. The only way that an expensive watercolor or paper will affect your work is that it can last longer.
Yeah, right.
Like, so I use paper where it's like 100% cotton. Apparently, the percentage of the cotton, like 1% equals 1 year.
Right. Okay.
So like 100 years, you know what I
years.
mean?
Oh,
so
wow.
it'll outlive you.
Yeah, hopefully. But I think that's the only way that it can be beneficial, and maybe like to the people buying it using great paper and stuff like that, it affects it. But other than that, like all the skills and stuff that you've learned and all the experience you have, that's the valuable thing, not what you're using. And sometimes crappy materials can make really cool work because
exactly.
it's like not what you expect.
Exactly.
And it's cheaper, so you can just make as many mistakes as you want.
And also, like, going back to mobile stuff, like, you don't even need a laptop to start editing your photos as well. There's tools like Lightroom for mobile, that kind of stuff that super powerful. It's like the same thing as your computer, but it's on your hand, in your palm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. We've also got from Cotton Kitty. I don't know if that's anybody knows here, saying hello from the western suburbs.
Hello.
Hi.
Where do you find most of your inspiration when you're starting a new project? Is there a bank of inspiration that you would go from, or is it like I want to try something new?
For me, it's like true inspiration comes like randomly. Like I'm not like seeking inspiration. I'll seek inspiration if I feel demotivated, but true inspiration when you get an idea, sometimes it's like in the shower. Like, why did I get this idea? And then those are the best ideas and most exciting when it seems to come from nowhere. Like someone's just like some invisible person.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
I agree.
But you can seek it out for sure, like going to galleries,
Yeah.
hanging out with other creative people, that's really inspiring. Going to talks, Adobe Symposium,
Yeah, watching live streams.
us here.
But I think also, like, if you're working with a brand, the brief that they set sort of usually sparks inspiration as well.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, that's one side. Another side is, like, if your personal projects is always, like, things you want to try yourself. And then, like, having that sort of, like, a list of things you want to try, always going back to that and, like, crossing it off and, like, adding more to it. It adds to your inspiration list as well.
I feel like inspo is maybe not what people think it is.
Yeah.
I feel like
I think
inspo
so.
is a lot less important than people assume it is.
In what sense?
In the sense that they think that you need to be inspired to make, and if you rely on being inspired to make, then you can't. It's very hard to do this professionally because you need to be making stuff all the time, and you need to be able to make it when you don't feel like making it.
Yeah.
Inspiration isn't like a big part of my work.
Yeah, and sometimes you have a long time to think about it. Other times you have to think about it fast. So like grabbing things out of your experiences and what you've done in the past is always like on the fly. Like I guess an example would be at an art gallery in New South Wales a while ago. There was like an artwork. There was like a bunch of colorful balls, and it was like a tiny corridor.
Oh yes.
And everyone was there. Like everyone was shooting at it, and it was really hard to get a good clean shot of it because I was shooting Lucy, my wife, and I was like, oh, how do I get it so that it's clean and there's not many other people? So I just walked around, and then I started shooting it this way, so it's only on one side of Lucy.
It's kind of like the profile of the
Yeah,
artwork.
literally just like the side of the artwork, but it's really nice on one side, but the other side is like nothing. So I just had the random thought, what if I mirror it and like create something new?
Yeah.
And I guess like that was just like on the fly. I'm like, just because I've done stuff in the past that relates and could work.
Yeah.
And so that's using your experiences and that kind of stuff.
Would you say that like constraints are a form of inspiration in the way that they help you to make work more easily? Because I feel like
I think so.
when you have unlimited
The open brief is
it
super daunting,
sucks.
right?
Like when you have constraints and a brief, it's like all these ideas start happening, like problem solving skills start happening.
Exactly.
But I think that can be really helpful with your own personal work as well, like as in like work that hasn't been given to you from a client, where it's like if you have a certain like universe or kind of category, to not say style, that you work in, then it stops you from kind of starting a new piece and go like, all right, who am I today? Do I work in watercolor? Do I work in vector? Or what am I doing? What am I drawing? That can be really, really difficult. Whereas when you've got a little bit of a focus, I think that can help.
For sure. Like
quite a
working
bit.
like a blank piece of paper or like a blank screen, that's like really scary.
Yeah.
It's like the possibilities are endless. And you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do?
All right. So I think, unfortunately, that's all the kind of the time we have. I'd love to kind of hang around with you guys and keep asking you questions because I'm learning quite a bit from you guys as well.
Anytime,
Jeremy.
Been super fun having you guys on. Thank you so much for taking the time
It's
to
our
come
pleasure.
on.
Thank you so much for having us.
Yeah, and hopefully you guys got something out of it. Thanks for asking a few questions and kind of checking in and saying hello. We've now got Matt, who's going to come on with Martina Martian. That's going to be another kind of a long session talking about collaboration and all that as well. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks, guys. Bye.